I'm Gina Bush. I'll be reading Chapter 17, The Wonders of Technology. Life in Professor Albert's house for the next several days was magical. Stumpy's wanderings had left her rather thin, so Kona took on the job of fattening her up. Food upstairs continued to disappear at a steady pace. Poor Professor Albert was making trips to the grocery daily. He had decided a sneaky chipmunk definitely was stealing the food, and he contrived several schemes for hiding his groceries. None of them worked, of course, not with an experienced bat in the house. Kona had promised himself that once this adventure was over, he would be a perfect dog for Professor Albert forever, to repay him for all the food they'd borrowed and the lamp he'd crashed. He would never pull at the leash. He would never bark at the UPS truck. He would never drip water from a water bowl on the kitchen floor. He would be perfect. With Marie's help, Kona sneaked boxes of shredded wheat, bags of English muffins, and jars of Spanish peanuts downstairs to the guests. Stumpy's health improved each day, and her children were very happy to have real squirrel milk to grow on again. Stumpy had told her friends the whole story of her night in the ice storm, how she had left her children in Marie's care, believing she could find Paradise Lane in Kona. She knew Kona would give shelter to them all. But of course Paradise Lane was the completely wrong road. It was even on the wrong side of town, and for 2 days Stumpy had wandered through all of its yards and trees looking for a chocolate Labrador. Then, the 3rd day, on the upper end of Paradise Lane, she saw from high up in a tree a yard where about 20 Labradors were playing. She thought she was dreaming. She rubbed her eyes hard and looked again. Yes, it was 20 chocolate Labradors, and they all looked like Kona. Believing she had finally found the house of her friend, Stumpy leaped from the tree, ran across the power line to the other side of the street, and hopped onto the gate of the yard. She wasn't sure which dog was Kona. They all looked so much alike. So she stood up and yelled as loudly as she could, "Kona, I'm here!" And bark, 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 bark! Those Labradors chased her right off that gate and into a tree. They stood under that tree barking at her all day until a woman came home and put them back in the house. Poor Stumpy. She was very confused, for she did not understand the dog's unfriendly behavior. They were not at all like Kona. She managed to make her way back to Gooseberry Park, and then was stunned when there was no sign of Murray or the children. Her tree was gone. Her family was gone. Her friend was gone. She wandered through the town, asking for news of a chocolate dog who might be looking for her. No one could help. But then one day, while she still searched, word began to spread about a dog and a sign for a squirrel on Miller Street. In the morning, her traveled every den in Gooseberry Park, beginning on the west side, of course. In the afternoon, it went above ground and through every tree still standing. By supper time, it was out on the street. And at nightfall, when Stumpy wearily asked an old pigeon sitting on the courthouse lawn whether he'd heard of a dog who might be looking for her, the rumor finally hit its target. The old pigeon, who knew every neighborhood in the city, led the little squirrel directly to Miller Street, and the soft green glow of the wonderful watch on the roof of Professor Albert's house led her to Kona. After staying in the professor's basement for a few days, Stumpy became curious about the way people in houses live. So when Professor Albert was away, Kona would accompany her about the rooms and show her all the wonders of technology she had been missing in the trees by living in the trees. Kona showed her the professor's clock radio, his compact disc player, his electric can opener, his yard control toaster, his heating pad, and his refrigerator. Stumpy was very impressed by all of the food Professor Albert had stored in his refrigerator. Staring at the shelves, he must have collected all summer long to get this much food put away. "Oh no," said Kona, "he got most of it just this week." "Amazing!" Stumpy exclaimed. But of all Professor Albert's technological wonders, it was his television that Stumpy liked best of all. When her children were asleep and the professor was out, Stumpy would sneak upstairs to see what was on. Because she had always been a very practical squirrel, she liked the PBS station best. She listened to every word of Wall Street Week and The Frugal Gourmet. But this old house was her favorite, and once, when Professor Albert and Kona were off for a walk, she crept upstairs into the kitchen and fixed the professor's leaky faucet. It was all quite extraordinary.